Cd32 Life Coaching with DNA. The Sacred Council, 32 out of 32. The Guiding Force of DNA. DNA, the guiding force of individuality. There is no need for comparing and competing. I am the Divana DNA, one of the 17 balancing forces of universe and nature, making you aware that there are no two things in Crystallia the creation alike. Everything and everybody is totally individual and unique. The greatest challenge lays in accepting and respecting this, and not to go into comparing and competing. Quote, "As we grow as unique persons, we learn to respect the uniqueness of others." Robert Hay Schuller, end of quote. I play a very important part in Crystallia and in the adventure of your life. You know me very well, as there are no two humans, creatures or things created the same, although they may look alike, but your essence is the same. You are all identical as souls, but on the material planes, everybody and everything is totally individual and unique, and has a total individual adventure. People may look alike, but even identical twins are not the same, because on the level of DNA, your structural idea of chromosomes and fingerprints, everybody is different. In nature and in regards to bacteria, viruses, and even to the same looking bottles coming from an assembly line are not the same. You may have to go and find out on a molecule level and detecting the difference under a microscope. There are always differences, and possibly not to be detected with the human eye. Quote, "There never were in the world two opinions alike, no more than two hairs or two grains. The most universal quality is diversity." Michel de Montaigne, end of quote. It is for this reason that you cannot compare each other, nor medically treat two people the same. It is for this reason you have lots of difficulties connected to school and medical systems that approach you as cattle, so to speak. Maybe you try to hide behind the norm, or try to fit in somewhere so you feel secure and accepted. Maybe it is in regards to you losing your inner connection with your Creator that you are feeling lonely and you want to be part of a group. You are not from here, but you want to feel at home. It will not work, because you as souls, spiritual beings, are on an adventure in the material world. You try to communicate with each other, seemingly under a group name, philosophy, or even religion. There will be conflict, as every individual has his or her perception through an individual background, and nobody has the same background. Quote, "A human being as a part of the whole, called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences his thoughts and feelings as something separate from the rest, a kind of an optical illusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desire and to affection for a few persons near us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty." Albert Einstein, end of quote. You go further by comparing yourself with who you were in the past. Looking back at the past moments of your life, realize that you can never get them back, for life is an ongoing, changing adventure. There cannot be two moments or experiences exactly the same. They may feel the same, but they are not. There may be similarities, and that's it. Oftentimes you say, "I did that again," but it is never precisely the same. You sometimes wish that these such-called repeats do not return, but they are just for you to see that you are changing. You may have been angry at a certain behavior or situation for a long period of time 30 years ago, but later you respond differently. These situations and behaviors are your road signs in your life, continuously letting you know where you are in regards your personal growth. It takes great strength to do things differently because these patterns are so connected to what you think you are. Quote, courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow. Marianne Radmacher. End of quote. Your entire existence seems to be around comparing and competing. You do not just compare yourself with others, but you seem to love competition. To prove that. To prove what? You are already different, because there are no two people created alike. I've seen you being in the same game, which ends up in destruction. What do you think causes all this stress? Is it not by you being in business of the competition? Do you really think that being an athlete is automatically being healthy? Look where you push your body through. You want to prove that you are better and smarter than others, and even ending up in fighting wars. Quote, it is because the doctrine of human unity based on the spiritual oneness of all beings is not propagated in the right manner that we have today many divisions leading to many conflicts. Sri Satya Sai Baba. End of quote. Do not forget, you are constantly comparing your experiences in feelings and tastes, what you read, hear, and see, and by doing so, you lose that special, unique individual experience. Remember that there are no two moments the same. As I said before, it is probably all connected, you feeling deep inside of you that essence which is your soul, and the memory of your true home, where all of you were one at a state of peace. So when you are ready to get back to this reality, which is real, compared to what you are experiencing now, you must seek the inner path. Quote, if you wish to know the road up the mountain, ask the man who goes back and forth on it. Zenrin, the Gospel according to Zen. End of quote. DNA. Knowing me and knowing what to do with me. Let's see how you unnecessarily struggle with my force in various aspects of your life. How you could change your perspective and even make some practical changes. There are endless words that can be connected to any subject, and each subject can have many books because each subject can be approached from various perspectives or angles. Most important is not to forget that all that is said or written is merely an opinion, a truth and not the truth, because the spoken and written word is part of the creative world, created in opposites, constantly changing and bound to time, and there is always more that can be said or written about any subject. Regarding me and the Sacred Council members, talking about any subject, know that this understanding applies to that information as well. The information is from our point of view and brought to you through the world of a visionary and mystical fiction. But hopefully it contributes to your life and assists you to experience life in a more conscious, mystical, and magical way. By hearing or reading this information, you will come to the conclusion that you know this already, and you do, because this is part of your universal and spiritual inheritance, and oftentimes we just need one word or sentence that inspires and motivates us to do things differently, or to think about a certain subject from a different perspective. Dealing with your real self, the soul. In regards to spiritual living, know that on the physical plane that you are a physical being, which is totally unique and incomparable, and that there is no need for competition. Quote, Since you are like no other being ever created since the beginning of time, you are incomparable. Brenda Ueland. End of quote. On the level of the soul, you are all the same, but on your path to soul, self, and God realization, you will walk as an individual. And here as well, there is no need to compare or compete. Your path is completely individual, even though you may be part of a group that follows the same spiritual principles. Dealing with your mind. In regards to managing and dealing with the mind, know that there are no two things in creation alike. Everything and everybody is totally individual and unique. There cannot be two moments or experiences exactly the same. They may feel the same, but they are not. So the greatest challenge lays in accepting and respecting this and not to go into comparing and competing. On the physical plane, all is individual and unique, and on the level of the soul, you're all the same. Quote, once we accept our limits, we go beyond them. Albert Einstein. End of quote. Dealing with your body. In regards to dealing with your physical body, note that there are no two people completely alike. Not even identical twins. Funny or strangely, however, many of you are trying to look like someone else, someone you idolize, or you thinking that you have to look a certain way to be accepted by the norm. On the other hand, you go to the extent to compete in most self and life-destructive competitions to prove that you are unique. Quote, since you are like no other being ever created since the beginning of time, you are incomparable. Brenda Ueland. End of quote. There is no need to compare and compete. Also, look beyond the physical body and understand that on the level of our soul, you are all one and the same. Dealing with communication. In regards to communication, stay aware that everything and everybody communicates in their own individual and unique way. Quote, when we talk in company, we lose our unique tone of voice, and this leads us to make statements which in no way correspond to our real thoughts. Friedrich Nietzsche. End of quote. For that reason, there is no need to compare or to compete with others of who communicates better or different. On the level of your soul, you all communicate the same, because on that level, it is just all about love. Dealing with food. In regards to dealing with nutrition, know that you are always comparing foods and meals taken at home or elsewhere. Trying to have the same taste and meal is a boring process, and you set yourself up for disappointments, which is the result of having expectations. As long as you are comparing and competing, you are trapped in the realm of fear. Why even comparing? Enjoy each meal and actually each ingredient as a total unique experience. When you mix too many foods, it is very hard to taste each item. Learn to taste each individual food item and know that even apples from the same tree taste differently. Life is an ongoing adventure without expectations and without holding on to the familiar. Quote, he who is not every day conquering some fear has not learned the secret of life. Ralph Waldo Emerson. End of quote. Also know that you are totally unique and individual, as there are no two the same of you in this world, and you have to find out what is right for you, which straight away indicates that when you are eating like others, that you haven't found your way yet. Dealing with staying fit. In regards to fitness, are you comparing and competing with yourself and others? Comparing yourself with others who are totally individual, unique, will either get you up competing with them or with yourself. By doing so, you will leave the realm of health, ending up in harming your body. Constantly remind yourself what the purpose of your workouts are. Is it about preserving your physical body and staying fit in the best way possible? Or is it about appearance and getting yourself in the game of competing and comparing? Quote, everyone should be respected as an individual, but no one idolized. Albert Einstein. Dealing with your life partner. In regards to relationships, know that your relationship is a total, unique and individual relationship. Your combination may look similar to other couples, but looking in detail, it is just totally individual and unique, and for that reason you cannot compare it with another couple, nor do you need to compete. Also, how you as individuals experience your relationship is unique and very hard to compare, because you have such a unique past. On the level of your souls, you are, however, all the same. But in the world of mind and matter, you have your special, unique, and individual experience. Quote, love is the ability and willingness to allow those that you take care of to be what they choose for themselves, without any insistence that they satisfy you. Wayne Dyer, end of quote. Dealing with your children. In regards to parenting, be careful to compare your child with another child, because one child is like no other. It has its own uniqueness and doesn't need to be compared or competed, or doesn't need to compete either. What is the adventure in the world by creating copies, or an army of robots, or fighters against each other? All the comparing and competing in the world has done more harm than good. Quote, you think the only people who are the people who look and think like you. But if you walk the footsteps of a stranger, you'll learn things you never knew you never knew. Pocahontas, Walt Disney Company, end of quote. Let your children become their own individual self. Assist them in the best way possible and leave the expectations out of the game. Quote, love is the ability and willingness to allow those that you care for to be what they choose for themselves, without any insistence that they satisfy you. Wayne Dyer, end of quote. Dealing with preserving the planet. In regards to taking care of the planet Earth, stay aware that business competition on a worldly scale is one of the major causes that destroy nature. The quality of any merchandise should stand first in order to serve others. But when money comes into play, you are producing low-quality products and by doing so affecting nature. Cheap products do not last long, and you have to produce again, taking away from nature's resources, polluting your planet, and leaving more waste behind than needed. Quote, the challenge we face today is the one for shaking our destiny. Peter Amato, end of quote. Dealing with the teenage years. In regards to the teenage years, do you have a hard time fitting in? Realize that you are totally individual and unique, and watch out for identifying with any person or group. Nobody is from this planet and cannot belong to it. You are all just passing through. In general, being a teenager, you fight your parents because you most likely do not want to be like any of them. That is perfectly okay, for you are already different. But do not fall the trap by trying to image an idol you are maybe looking up to, and you wish you could be. Just be or become just you. Quote, every man has his own courage and is betrayed because he seeks in himself the courage of other persons. Ralph Waldo Emerson, end of quote. Dealing with getting older. In regards to dealing with getting older, Are you finally giving up the fight of comparing and competing? Realize that you might have the experience and know more how things can go easier, but as long as nobody asks you, these experiences are yours. Everybody needs to go through their own life experience, and in general, not many seek advice. Everybody wants to do things their own way. So do not get frustrated and do not compare yourself by thinking you have the answers to questions that are not even asked. Quote, "The most difficult thing in the world is to know how to do a thing and to watch someone else doing it wrong without comment." T.H. White. End of quote. Dealing with stress. In regards to dealing with stress, look what stress you cause to yourself, others, and the planet by wanting to be successful. You are in the rat race of competing and comparing. You should ask yourself first if any of your aims are worth it. Look inside yourself and see what is really important. Maybe it is the real you within you, the soul, being more aware, healthy, vital, fit, and possibly helping others when you can. When the things you want are just based on selfish motives, the stress going with it will be an unhealthy stress. Quote, "The true joy of life is being used for a purpose, recognized by yourself as a mighty one. Being thoroughly worn out before you are thrown to the scrap heap. Being a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish clod of ailments and grievances." George Bernard Shaw. End of quote. Dealing with weight. In regards to dealing with weight, are you comparing yourself with others on the path of losing weight? Are you making losing your weight into a competition? Realize that you are totally individual and unique, and that your path is totally individual and unique. There is not one solution for everybody. Health and losing weight, just like many other things, is an adventure, an individual adventure. Never forget who you truly are and put your effort even more into this adventure, for you came without anything and have to leave all behind one day. So be on the adventure to find out who you really are, and do not get obsessed with your body, or for the matter with anything of this world. Quote, "The jewel of the soul is priceless, and yet it is being squandered like this in exchange for a mere shell." Sri Guru Granth Sahib. End of quote. Dealing with disease. In regards to dealing with disease, know that it is not a game of comparing yourself with others, nor it is a competition. Each disease for each person is totally individual and unique, and each disease, virus, bacteria is totally individual and unique and affecting each individual differently. In the medical world, they may put the disease under a label, but know that the cause and healing is totally an individual, unique adventure. Look deeper and see what you have done and are still doing to yourself to be in this situation. Quote, "It takes a very strong individual to sit with themselves, calm their storms, and heal all their issues without trying to bring someone else into that chaos. Your journey into self-love is just that." End of quote. Dealing with emotions. In regards to dealing with emotions, are you comparing emotions to previous places, faces, and events when you experience them? There is no need to compare an emotion, for each emotion is a total unique experience on its own, and especially when connected to people, places, and events. There cannot be two moments or situations the same, for everything is constantly changing. But in your mind, you can make a picture about each moment, wanting that moment to come back or not. Each moment and situation, however, will always be different, a different experience. Life is an ongoing adventure with different experiences. Quote, "We should come home from adventures and perils and discoveries every day with new experience and character." Henry David Thoreau. End of quote. Dealing with business. In regards to dealing with your professional lives, are you just caught in the world of competition? Accept your life and your business as something individual and unique, and do not end up in a war with the such-called competition. When you accept your life and business as a book that is either written by yourself or God, you know what will come your way and what not. Do not use the excuse that you need to be in the game of competition because everybody is doing it. Provide quality service, quality products, and be respectful to your employees or employer and the customer. Quote, "A man's true wealth hereafter is the good he does in this world to his fellow man." Mohammed. End of quote. Dealing with destructive habits. In regards to dealing with destructive habits and addictions, know that getting away from destructive habits is not a game of comparing yourself with others, nor is it a competition. Be aware not to get caught in a support group and comparing yourself or competing, for you are totally individual and unique. You may not like and love yourself, the one you see in the mirror, but is that the real you? Get connected with the real you, your soul, and the Creator who loves you, and learn to love Him, and all else will fall in place. Quote, "Being deeply loved by someone gives you strength, while loving someone deeply gives you courage." Lao Tzu. End of quote. Dealing with studying. In regards to studying, stay aware that you study in your complete individual and unique way. There is no need to try to study in the same way as someone else does, nor is there any need for competition. Unfortunately, most school systems are based on comparing and competing. And when you are in that system, you must be extra sharp-minded in order not to fall mentally and emotionally into that trap. Keep looking at and approaching study as an adventure of learning with care, without battling with others, and without frantically rushing to the finish line. Quote, "No one in the world was ever you before with your particular gifts and abilities and possibilities. It is a shame to waste those by doing what someone else has done." Joseph Campbell. End of quote. Dealing with friendships. In regards to friendships, let's realize that no matter how much you can have, what you can have in common, you are in many other aspects totally individual and unique, and having an individual experience in this world. The entire world should be a friend, because everyone is part of your universal relationship. Why do you tend to look first at your differences, and those differences you have a hard time accepting? You're all different, and the worldly adventure would be very boring when everybody would be the same. So accept all the endless differences you see in your friends and embrace them. There is no need to compare or compete. Quote, "Our greatest strength as a human race is our ability to acknowledge our differences. Our greatest weakness is our failure to embrace them." Judith Henderson. End of quote. Summary DNA. DNA, the guiding force of individuality. Your entire existence is based on comparing and competing, and you do not see the destruction it causes. I am DNA, in charge of the balancing force of individuality, and I remind you that everything and everyone in creation is totally individual and unique, and that there is no need to compete or compare. Situations, people and things may look alike, but they are not identically the same. Not only is everything and everyone unique, but they also have an individual adventure. The summary. There are no two things, people, or events exactly the same. They are all individual and unique, although they may look alike. Only on the level of your soul you are all one and the same. There is no need to compete or compare. Everything and everyone has to go through its own adventure. Realize what negative effects can come from competing and comparing. Do everything possible to stay out of the game of competing and comparing. In order to stay aware that everything and everybody is totally individual and unique, and that there is no need to compare and compete, prepare yourself for the day of how you are going to approach life, others, and situations. And at the end of the day, write down your changes, how you handled things differently by having been exposed to the information about DNA. Affirmation. There is no need for me to compare or compete, for everything in creation is totally individual and unique. Petrus.